Hi, today I'm going to be reviewing The Duke That I Marry by Cathy Maxwell. So, The Duke That I Marry is a historical romance novel. Probably one of the worst I've read in a long time, but we will get into that when I do my review. First, as usual, let me go over what happened in this piece of crap, and then I can rant about it. So the general premise of this is that there is a new duke who has inherited an estate that has basically no money, and he needs to wed an heiress to bring money into the estate. And this is the third book in a series, and so I'm not sure if anything between the two of them was established in the previous two novels, but they basically go over it in here. He has already made an agreement with a very wealthy man to marry his daughter, and the book starts off where he has about 2 days before his wedding, and he only spent time with his betrothed on their betrothal ball and then left. And he's been gone for over a month. And his grandmother isn't very happy about this because, you know, it's making it look like he doesn't care about her. And he's like, well, I wanted to marry for love, and you're making me marry for money. And, oh, look, the estate has been bleeding money, but I can't find out why, so you better tell me. And she actually tells him I gotta wait to review this, but it's so dumb. So, someone was blackmailing the estate. The original heir was gay, and it's like, oh, I will blackmail you, and I will tell everyone if you don't pay me. And so they basically bankrupted the estate, paying off this blackmailer. And they haven't heard from the blackmailer in a while, but, Matthew Addison is the name of the main guy. Matthew wants to get revenge for the family and try to get any money back that he can, even though he should just leave it alone. He's going to marry an heiress. It'll be fine. Well, he thinks it'll be fine. He gets a letter from what's her name? Willa Reverly. Willa is the female protagonist. He gets a very short letter from her saying, I relieve you of your duty. We won't get married. It's fine. He's like, wait a second. I mean, I know I want to marry for love, but I kind of need your money. So he rides to London to go kind of try to change her mind. And it cuts to Willa, and she wrote this note, and she asked for her friend to come, and she tells her friend, and she's like, did you tell your father? She's like, no, I haven't done that yet. You're the only one I've told besides my, jilted groom. And she starts to have kind of second feelings about it. And, then Matthew shows up, and they talk, and he tries to compliment her, and she doesn't want to be complimented. But eventually, they agree, like, all right, fine, we'll get married. It's fine. Because he's trying, and she can see that he is trying, and she really doesn't want to have to confront her father. So they decide to get married anyway. And I'm trying to remember the plot of this novel, because there's so much stupid stuff in it. They get married. And, it's all hunky-dory. But Willa overhears a conversation that Matthew is having with his sister, that his sister's saying, like, how could you marry somebody that you don't love? Because our whole family is married for love. And he's like, well, I don't love her, but I respect her. And keep in mind that Willa knows that this is not a love match. Willa knows that this is a financial arrangement. And Willa takes offense to this, the fact that he doesn't love her, even though she knows that. She takes offense to it. I don't know why, but she does. A constant theme in this is that she's totally insecure in this entire novel, and it doesn't get better. And part of the reason, Matthew says that he had been in love once, but it was with a married lady, and she had led him on, and he realized that he had been being led on, but he had loved her for a while, but they had broken things off before he even asked for Willa's hand in marriage. So it's not really an issue, but Willa is just hung up on the fact that he loved this woman and he doesn't love her. And he's like, and he's told her there's no reason that we couldn't fall in love at some point. And I respect you. What more do you want from me, lady? And anyway, in the meantime, Matthew is trying to find this blackmailer. He has enlisted the help of his cousin George, who is a lawyer, to hire men to find this blackmailer. He also believes that the blackmailer may have killed his brother that was the original heir to the duchy. And so, of course, Matthew wants revenge and wants the money and all of that stuff. It's like, it's a point of pride. So he enlists his cousin George. And they're not really getting anywhere. And during this, of course, he's trying to be as nice as possible to Willa. She has never had sex, and he tries to be as nice as possible, does everything right, and she still gets really mad at him because it hurt. And he says, the first time might hurt, and it does, and she's pissed, and she's like, how could you do that to me, you horrible person? I'm not gonna talk to you for a while. We're not gonna sleep together for a while. Screw you, I don't like you. And he did nothing wrong. He did absolutely nothing wrong. It wasn't like, oh, in the heat of the moment, like, no, he was fine. And that was their first, like, love scene, and it was really off-putting. Really, really off-putting. And then they're starting to slowly get along. Kind of, sort of, not really, but they have to make an appearance at this big party. It's kind of the first event that they will have gone to as the Duke and Duchess. It's kind of the main event after their wedding. So they have to go, and they're starting to get along a little bit better. They've talked a little bit more. And then they're wandering around the party. They get separated somehow. They're like, Matthew's talking to someone and Willa's talking to somebody else. And Matthew gets a note that is delivered by a footman, and it's from the blackmailer and said, meet me in this room. I want to talk to you. So of course he doesn't tell anybody about this. He doesn't show the note to anybody. He goes to the room. And instead of the blackmailer being there, it is the woman he had an affair with. Not an affair, well, she had an affair with him. It was the woman he had been in love with, and she is waiting in the room. I think she's partially naked, because she had gotten a note to meet him, and, they were going to rekindle their love. Of course, Matthew's having none of this, and he's trying to leave. And then, of course, as soon as he tries to leave, the door opens, and there's Willa. And, of course, Willa won't hear anything, but nope, I'm going to be super offended. And he's trying to say it's not what it looks like. And, of course, she's like, no, I don't want to hear it. And she leaves the party and goes home and is immediately kidnapped. Because, of course, why not? And so, I mean, this is so stupid. At some point, and then, crap, I'm trying to think. This book melts in my brain, so it's hard to think. Matthew gets another note to meet here or we will kill your wife. And of course he meets there, and then they capture him. And the ruffians that have kidnapped him, because these are just hired guys, are supposed to kill them and make it look like a carriage accident. And circumstances being what they are, the carriage gets pushed off into the river, but it's shallow, and Matthew and Willa are able to get away. It's fine. They are able, and then they get home, and then they have sex. And I thought that, okay, yeah, you died, so maybe that's part of it, but also, okay, so your first sex scene started out well, and then it just completely ruined the moment. So maybe this one will be better. And it was really short and really lame. And just giving the reader blue balls. It was bad. So then, Matthew goes the next day to... He knows where one of the ruffians was staying. And he's going to go try to confront him to find out the identity of the blackmailer who hired him. And Willa tagged along because, the author's really trying to do a strong woman thing here, and of course Willow's going to be strong by going along and doing what the men do, and it comes off so stupid. But she goes along. They find out that the ruffian has been killed, probably by the blackmailer, and I don't exactly remember how he figures this out, but he realizes that the blackmailer is probably his cousin, who would have been the Duke had his grandfather been born earlier. The grandfather who was the Duke had a twin brother who was younger than him, and that is George's like grandfather or father or whatever. It's complicated, but George is like, all right, well, if I kill you and your wife, I can be the Duke. Or if I'm found out, my sons can be the Duke. Woohoo, yay, whatever. And he manages to get Matthew to their estate out in the, well, not in the country, but it's kind of out in the country, I guess, by kidnapping the grandmother, Matthew's grandmother, his grandmother too, I guess. And of course, and they do tell the magistrate, and they try to get people, round up people to go, but they head there before they rounded up everybody for some reason. I don't know why. They go there, Matthew's about to be killed, and then Willow bursts in with help, and George is captured, and, will be on trial, and all this. And everything is hunky-dory. They have an epilogue where Willa's friends have babies, and Willa doesn't have a baby yet, but like, oh, maybe sometime in the future, and it's pointless, and it's stupid. And I lost brain cells during this. So let's get into my review. So I didn't go into this book expecting to hate it. The back cover copy actually sounded very interesting. It's kind of the typical trope of the impoverished lord needs a wealthy heiress. And typically what happens is the heiress is really annoyed because the lord only wants her for her money. That's usually the only reason that they want her, and she's had to deal with lots of suitors, and she's like, oh, he's just like the rest, whatever. And the guy is like, oh, well, she's not as attractive as some of the other ladies, or I wanted another woman who either isn't rich or isn't as rich as this person. And, oh, the heiress, maybe she's not as attractive, or she has some unattractive qualities, like maybe she's a blue stocking or something. That's usually how these go. And then you have to work through it and realize, oh, there's more to you than I thought, and I love you. This is not that. This made me mad. From pretty early on, he's like, oh, well, I want to marry for love. That's my only reason why I don't want to marry this heiress. Because he says, oh, well, admittedly, she's prettier than all the other ladies this season. And he also was the catch of the season for all of the wealthy ladies. So they're both very attractive. And so that's not, like, at all a problem. And she does kind of, but she knows, though, that he needs her money. And she takes some issue to this, but he's being very nice about it. He's like, you know what this is, and I respect you, and I would love for us to eventually develop a love, fall in love at some point in our marriage. We just have to try. And she takes issue with this. Like I said, she overhears a conversation, and he is defending her to his sister, who is really mad that he married her without loving her. And he's like, she's really nice, and yeah, I don't love her, but I really respect her. And he's defending her. And she hears this entire conversation, and all she takes out of it is that he doesn't love her, and so she should be mad, even though she knows that this isn't a love thing. And, of course, it's misunderstandings, the book. This book relies on the worst trope ever, and that's the misunderstanding. Some misunderstandings are fine and whatever, but this was horrible. Like, so many different misunderstandings. It was used several times in this novel, and it was just really, really dumb. Like, the whole, like, blackmailer thing, and, oh, of course, I'm going to tell you to go here, but no, it's a setup. And oh, of course, then she's gonna misunderstand, and then she gets kidnapped. It's like all the cliche tropes crammed into one. You can get away with like one or maybe two of these, but she just put all of these in here, and you could see them coming. And except for the kidnapping thing, like that I didn't really see coming, but when it happened, I sighed, and I was just like, really? You're gonna do this to me? Really? Okay. And oh, it was such a pain story-wise. The other big issue is I honestly don't think that this was well written. Like the actual prose and the way it was written, I don't think it was written well. I honestly believe if Cathy Maxwell was not an established author, because she has written many, many novels, I feel like this would not have been published by a first-time author. I don't believe so. Because this book is so exposition heavy. The first 2 chapters are all exposition. Yes, they're happening in dialogue, but that doesn't matter. And some of it doesn't happen in dialogue. Some of it's he's talking to his grandmother in the very first chapter, and then he like just expositions in like his head. And just to tell us all this information that could have easily been relayed in another way better way. And the first 2 chapters are all exposition, and then there's more exposition as we go along. And then the sex scenes, there were only 2 of them, and the first one actually was starting to be really good. It was nice. It was on the longer side, but not too long. I hate really long sex scenes just because they take forever, and I'm like, all right, just get to it. And it was good, and then, you know, the actual sex happened, and she immediately is like, oh, this hurts, and you betrayed me, and you're horrible. And I'm like, that just leaves such a sour taste in my mouth. Like, that's bad. I was so just taken aback by that, because he had been doing everything in his power to be really nice and let her know what to expect. And she just is like, it's an instant betrayal. You're horrible. I don't like you. And I'm like, but that's not how you do that. And then the next sex scene was after they had almost been killed. Which, again, you can understand, like, oh, we almost died. We should have sex. But that was rushed and very anticlimactic and just not satisfying. I think because the first sex scene really left a bad taste in my mouth, I just didn't. They would have really had to make up for it, and they just didn't. Plus, with all the overused tropes and everything in here, this feels like someone's first or second attempt to write a romance novel. This really does. I have read, so not only do I write romance, and take this with a grain of salt, I'm not published, so my advice means nothing, but I have read a ton of romance novels. I have read a ton of romance novels as a beta reader, and I've read lots that are better than this, and I've read lots that are really way worse than this. This is not unreadable. It's not unreadable, but it has so many problems in it that if I were beta reading this, I would tell them, you have so much exposition that it makes it really hard to kind of get through the first couple chapters. Like, I don't need to know all this backstory. Just weave in whatever I need to know later. I don't need to know this right now. And that's also what really frustrated me. And then of course there's the characters. Their motivations are thin and stupid, and I don't like them. Matthew as a character is not too bad. You know, he's a nice guy trying to do right by his estate. He needs money to do it. But then he also is deciding to do this really stupid, like, revenge thing, or, you know, trying to get justice, find the blackmailer. And I mean, yeah, it's probably good. It was his cousin who was doing it, but, like, it was dumb. It's like, it's over and done with, you know. I can kind of understand, but it was really stupid. And that's kind of his only character motivation or whatever. Willow was even worse. because again, I think I mentioned this in my Vespertine review, that the main character didn't really have any wants of her own or any, things she was striving towards. Willa is the same way. There is nothing that she wants to strive for. She doesn't even really want marriage. She doesn't even have any wants or desires, like, of her own. She's always just been kind of a tool of her father. She knew that she would be married off and, for an advantageous marriage at some point. But she doesn't want anything beyond. She doesn't want that. I hit my mic. But she doesn't want anything in general. She doesn't want to, marry someone who doesn't love her, but she doesn't seem to want anything else beyond that. And she is super insecure. She is, this author, I swear, wants you to sympathize with Willa. And she is acting like that typical crazy woman, the crazy girlfriend who constantly has to look at their boyfriend's cell phone, or know where they're going to be. If another woman looks in your direction, I'm going to get mad at you. If another woman writes you or visits you, oh, your ass is mine. That's what Willa is, and I feel like the author is trying to make you sympathize with her, and I'm just going, she's crazy. Run. And, of course, Willa's, nice in general, so she doesn't she comes off as crazy and insecure, but supposedly in a sympathetic way, but no, she's that crazy woman who is jealous all the time. Like, women, she is married to this guy, is walking into the ball, and the women are looking at her husband because he's a very hot guy. And yet there are men who are looking at her, and she even asks him, like, why aren't you jealous? Like, oh, because I don't care. Like, you're mine. And she's like, oh, that's true. And they could have made a good point about that. Like, oh, I don't need to be jealous because, yeah, you're mine. Like, I don't know why I'm so jealous. No, she still gets jealous, and it's stupid, and it's dumb, and... This book hurt me physically. I would not recommend this to anybody. This was so bad. I had hoped, because I've had a string of bad books that just made me mad, I was hoping for a nice, light, fun historical romance. Of course, they have the pictures on the front, and they have a fun picture on the inside, like, ooh, this is gonna be kind of fun, they're gonna be, bickering, and doing some fun shenanigans, and no, I got really stupid, bad writing, both in the actual writing and in the story construction. She phoned this in hard. I think I have like one other of her books. I've never actually read anything by Cathy Maxwell, so I don't know if the rest of her books are like this, but this felt phoned in hard. Don't read this. There are so many other books, even in this trope, the wealthy heiress and the poor lord, that are way better. I can't think of any off the top of my head because there are so many, and this killed brain cells. But there are a lot more that are way better than this. Don't read this. This is crap. This was terrible. So, yeah, obviously you can tell I did not like this. I was complaining to my husband while I was reading it. I read the first 2 chapters, and then I had to go to bed. And I was telling him, like, yeah, I have a feeling this book is going to be really bad. The story is okay so far, but the writing isn't that good. And the husband's just laughing. Like, I hope it gets better. And then I'm complaining to him the next day. He's like, it didn't get better, did it? No, it got a lot worse. I had to put the book down several times and just go, why? Why did the author make this decision? It was like, this is the lowest common denominator. This is the easiest thing to do. I don't have to think of like a complicated plot or something that actually, is interesting. I just do whatever is easy, whatever tropes have been done a million times before, and doing it in the most boring way possible. Ugh. I really hope the next book I read is better. I'm reading another romance novel by another author I haven't read before, so I can only hope. So I had a really hard time when I first started reading romance novels of branching out and finding other authors. Mary Balog was the first author I'd ever read in historical romance, and for a long time she was about the only one I would read, but then I was starting to run out of her books. So I had to slowly branch out. But the problem is, for every one author I found that I liked, I found like 5 more that were horrible. And maybe I'm just picky, because there's certain things I like in historical romance that other people don't, or, aren't as picky about. But I have so many different authors now that I haven't read, because I'm trying to try new authors so I can branch out. And it's not good when I keep running into ones that are bad. So I'm hoping that this next author, I think Vivian Lorette is her name. Hopefully she's good. I have 4 books of hers, so it'd be nice if she was good and I could enjoy another author, but we'll see. So anyway, thank you for listening to me rant about this terrible dumpster fire of a book. I hope you enjoyed this. If you would like to keep up with what I'm reading, with random stuff, pictures of my life, I've posted some pictures about what I've been crocheting lately. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at author Emmy Kennedy, or you can check out the hashtag 1yearofbooks. You don't have to follow me. That's fine. I'm not that interesting. But if you just want to look it up, you can see what I'm currently reading. I've been doing good so far. I think I am officially 20%, more than 20% of the way through the 1 year of books. So that's exciting. I'll be done next September, so we'll see how that goes. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.